Welcome to Internet Capsule. In the depths of every individual lies a part of themselves that remains hidden, unacknowledged, and often misunderstood. The shadow self. This is the part of us we reject, disown, or bury deep in our subconscious. It is not merely a repository for our bad traits, but also holds much of our untapped potential, creativity, and power. The concept of the shadow is rooted in the work of Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who believed that to fully know oneself, one must confront this hidden side of their being. We live in a world that emphasizes light over darkness, success over failure, and positivity over negativity. However, in the process of trying to be good or acceptable, we often push away parts of ourselves that do not fit societal norms or our own idealized version of who we are. The quest for wholeness is about reuniting with these forgotten aspects of ourselves, embracing both the light and the dark. Today, we will explore what the shadow is, how it forms, and why integrating it is essential to living an authentic, meaningful life. The origins of the shadow. The shadow has its origins in our early development. As children, we are pure, unfiltered expressions of ourselves, innocent, curious, and unbounded by societal rules. However, as we grow, we begin to learn what is acceptable behavior and what is not. Through interactions with parents, teachers, and peers, we start to shape our identities based on external expectations. We hear messages like, "Don't be too loud," "Stop crying," or "Be nice." Slowly, we learn to suppress certain traits that do not conform to these guidelines. This suppression leads to the creation of the shadow, the parts of us that are not accepted. Our anger, sadness, selfishness, even our wild creativity or unique perspective get buried in the unconscious. Over time, the shadow grows, containing everything we have repressed, forgotten, or deemed unacceptable. But the shadow is not purely negative. It also holds our undeveloped talents, desires, and potential. The more we push these traits away, the more power they gain in the unconscious mind. Left unacknowledged, the shadow can manifest in unhealthy ways, such as projecting our insecurities onto others, self-sabotaging behaviors, or feeling disconnected from our true selves. The shadow demands recognition, and the longer we ignore it, the more it will influence our lives from the background. Shadow integration, the path to authenticity. Shadow integration is more than just a psychological exercise. It's a profound journey into the depths of our own psyche. A process that requires courage, vulnerability, and a willingness to embrace our full complexity. At its core, shadow integration is about bringing the unconscious aspects of ourselves, the parts we've disowned, rejected, or buried, into conscious awareness. By doing this, we not only reclaim lost pieces of our identity, but we also free ourselves from the unconscious forces that often govern our behavior and relationships. The first step to shadow integration is awareness. It begins with acknowledging that the shadow exists and that it has been shaping our lives in subtle, often destructive ways. We might notice patterns of self-sabotage, such as repeating the same mistakes in relationships or career choices. We might recognize that we project our own insecurities onto others, blaming them for traits we secretly fear or dislike in ourselves. By becoming aware of these patterns, we can begin to see the shadow at work. Awareness also involves observing our emotional triggers. These are situations, people, or events that evoke a strong emotional reaction in us, such as anger, envy, or resentment. When we feel triggered, it's often a sign that a part of our shadow is being activated. For instance, if someone's confidence makes us feel irritated or insecure, it may be because we've repressed our own desire to be confident and assertive. Shadow integration invites us to look beyond the surface of these emotions and ask ourselves, what part of me is being mirrored here? What have I rejected in myself that this situation is bringing to light? Once we become aware of our shadow, the next step is acceptance. This is perhaps the most challenging aspect of shadow work, as it requires us to confront the parts of ourselves that we find uncomfortable or even shameful. We may have spent years, even decades, hiding these aspects from ourselves and others, convinced that they are too ugly or unacceptable to be seen. But shadow integration is not about passing judgment on ourselves. It's about embracing our humanity in all its messiness and complexity. Acceptance does not mean indulging in negative behavior or excusing harmful actions. Instead, it means acknowledging that these parts of ourselves exist and that they have a right to be seen and understood. For example, if we struggle with anger, instead of suppressing it or feeling guilty about it, we might ask ourselves, what is this anger trying to tell me? What unmet need or boundary is being violated? By listening to the message behind the emotion, we can gain insight into ourselves and begin to heal. The shadow as a guide to purpose. For many, the idea of purpose feels elusive, like a distant destination they hope to one day reach. We often look outside ourselves for clues, through societal expectations, family influences, or external validation, to find what we are meant to do. But in reality, the answer to our purpose often lies in the very parts of ourselves that we have neglected or pushed away. The shadow is not just a hidden repository of unwanted traits or repressed emotions. It can also serve as a compass, guiding us toward our true calling in life. How is it possible, you may ask, that something so seemingly dark or undesirable can point us to our purpose? The truth is, within the shadow resides much of our untapped potential, creativity, and desire. The parts of us that have been cast aside, whether out of fear, shame, or societal pressure, often contain the seeds of our most authentic gifts and talents. What we suppress in the unconscious doesn't disappear. It continues to influence us, shaping our lives in powerful ways, often without our awareness. To begin understanding how the shadow guides us to purpose, we must look at the qualities and desires we've suppressed over time. For example, think of a child who expresses a natural love for art or storytelling. If this child is discouraged from pursuing those interests, perhaps being told that such pursuits are impractical or won't lead to success, they may bury that creative urge deep in their shadow. As an adult, they may feel drawn to jobs or activities that feel safe and socially accepted, yet still experience a nagging sense of dissatisfaction, a feeling that something is missing. That buried creative energy, now part of their shadow, continues to call to them, often manifesting as frustration, boredom, or a longing for something more meaningful. In this way, the shadow holds clues to what we are truly passionate about. The qualities we have denied or repressed are often those that, if integrated, could lead us toward a more authentic and purposeful life. Shadow work, then, is not just about confronting our fears and insecurities. It's also about rediscovering what lights us up, what makes us feel alive. It's about uncovering the parts of ourselves that we've lost touch with, but that are integral to fulfilling our purpose. One of the most common ways the shadow reveals itself in relation to purpose is through envy or admiration. Consider the people you look up to, those who seem to be living the life you desire. It's easy to feel envy or admiration for their accomplishments, but these feelings are often a mirror reflecting what you desire for yourself. What is it about them that you find so compelling? Is it their confidence, their creativity, their ability to lead or inspire others? These traits may be aspects of your own shadow, the very qualities you've buried but secretly wish to express. Embracing the shadow in everyday life. Embracing the shadow in everyday life can feel like an abstract concept, but it is both a practical and transformative process that can be integrated into our daily routines, relationships, and choices. It's about cultivating awareness and compassion for ourselves, recognizing the subtle ways our shadow manifests in our actions, thoughts, and emotions, and embracing these aspects as an integral part of who we are. The shadow isn't something we address once and then move on from. It is a continuous part of our psychological and emotional landscape, and embracing it is a lifelong practice. One of the most practical ways to begin embracing the shadow in everyday life is through mindfulness. When we bring mindful awareness to our emotions, thoughts, and reactions, we can start to see patterns that may have previously gone unnoticed. For example, let's say you have a conversation with a friend, and afterward, you feel inexplicably frustrated or irritated. Instead of pushing that feeling away or immediately blaming your friend, you pause and ask yourself, what is this irritation trying to tell me? What part of me is being activated right now? By taking this mindful pause, you allow the shadow to reveal itself, offering insights into your deeper feelings and unconscious beliefs. In everyday interactions, our shadow often shows up in subtle, seemingly mundane ways. Perhaps you find yourself judging someone else for being overly emotional or attention-seeking. That judgment may be a reflection of a part of yourself that you've disowned, your own desire for attention or validation, which has been buried in the shadow. By noticing these judgments and turning inward, you can begin to explore what they reveal about you. Instead of projecting these feelings outward, you start to integrate them by acknowledging their presence within you. In relationships, the shadow can be a powerful force, both destructive and healing. Unconscious patterns often surface in our closest relationships, whether with family, friends, or romantic partners. Have you ever noticed that certain arguments seem to repeat themselves, or that you keep attracting the same type of person into your life? These patterns are often the result of shadow dynamics at play. For instance, if you struggle with feelings of unworthiness, you may unconsciously attract people who reinforce those feelings, either by not valuing you or by triggering your insecurities. Shadow work in relationships means acknowledging these patterns and recognizing that they originate within you, not from the other person. It involves taking responsibility for your own projections and triggers and using them as opportunities for self-growth and healing. The journey to wholeness and purpose. As we come to the end of this journey, it's important to reflect on the profound significance of shadow work in the larger context of life. Integrating the shadow is not just about facing our fears, embracing our wounds, or acknowledging our suppressed emotions. It's about reclaiming the totality of who we are. The path to wholeness is one of deep self-awareness, compassion, and continuous growth. It is a journey that, when undertaken with intention and courage, leads us not only to personal healing, but also to a sense of purpose that is uniquely our own. When we think of wholeness, it is easy to imagine it as some distant ideal, a state of being where we have eradicated all our flaws and become our highest selves. But true wholeness is not about perfection. It is about integration, about accepting all parts of ourselves, the light and the dark, the strengths and the vulnerabilities. It's about recognizing that every part of us has value, that even our most challenging traits or experiences contain wisdom that can guide us toward greater understanding and self-compassion. Wholeness, then, is not a static state that we achieve once and for all. It is a dynamic process, a lifelong journey. We are constantly evolving, constantly being shaped by our experiences, and constantly discovering new aspects of ourselves. Shadow work helps us navigate this process by bringing awareness to the unconscious parts of our psyche, allowing us to integrate them into our conscious lives. Through this integration, we gain greater clarity, emotional resilience, and inner peace. We no longer feel fragmented or at war with ourselves, but instead experience a deep sense of unity and coherence. The shadow plays a crucial role in this journey because it houses much of what we have disowned or rejected. In a sense, our shadow holds the key to our liberation. By facing the parts of ourselves that we fear or feel ashamed of, we free ourselves from the limiting beliefs and patterns that have held us back. We learn that the shadow is not a burden to be rid of, but a wellspring of potential waiting to be realized. When we embrace the shadow, we transform our relationship to ourselves and to the world around us. This journey toward wholeness inevitably leads to a deeper understanding of our purpose. For many of us, the search for purpose can feel like an overwhelming task, especially in a world that often values external achievements over inner fulfillment. But through shadow work, we begin to see that purpose is not something we need to chase or strive for. It is something that naturally emerges as we come into alignment with our true selves. Purpose is not a destination. It is the result of living authentically, of expressing all aspects of who we are, without fear or shame. A final call to action. So now, I invite you to take a moment and reflect. What parts of yourself have you been hiding in the shadows? What aspects of your personality, your desires, or your dreams have you pushed away, thinking they are unworthy of the light? The journey toward wholeness begins with a single step: the willingness to look inward and accept all that you find. Begin the process of shadow integration today and reclaim the parts of yourself you have left behind. In doing so, you will unlock the potential for a life of purpose, fulfillment, and deep connection with both yourself and the world around you. Thank you for watching the video. If you like it, please like, share, and subscribe.